So the Mbeumo goal stems from a loss of possession in the Chelsea half, and so because of this, Dorgu is already holding a high and wide position on the outside of Reece James, whilst Ahmad was holding a position in the left-sided half space, and so his narrow positioning allows him to move across to Caicedo, with Bruno Fernandes slightly more advanced than Casemiro, but his positioning allows him to cut the passing lane into João Pedro, and so you can see that United have a horizontally compact pentagon shape in this counter-pressing situation. But Sesko from a defensive point of view does excellently, as he angles his pressure in order to cut off the passing lane across goal to Fofana, which therefore forces Cucurella either to try to play a forward pass into maybe João Pedro, or into Enzo, which because of Ahmad and Bruno Fernandes' positioning makes it a very high risk pass, and so Cucurella is forced back to the left-sided centre-back Trevoh Chalobah, which Sesko now uses as the trigger to initiate the press, which is now going to be the signal for the players behind Sesko to look to press Chelsea man for man in their defensive third. And now as Trevoh Chalobah is about to play the pass back to Robert Sanchez, you can see the benefit of having Dorgu in his advanced position wide of Ahmad, as he's in close proximity to Reece James, which allows him to man-to-man press the right back, which now allows Ahmad to man-to-man press Fofana, the right-sided centre-back. And Sesko once again does excellently. He angles his pressure in order to cut off the passing lane from Sanchez back out to Trevoh Chalobah, thereby forcing Sanchez over to Chelsea's right-hand side. But you can now see that United's central pentagon shape becomes more of a 1-3-1 pressing shape, with Casemiro sitting a lot deeper than Bruno Fernandes. However, because of Dorgu's high positioning behind Ahmad, rather than having started maybe 15 or 20 yards deeper and having to make up that ground, Ahmad can now apply pressure to Fofana, the right-sided centre-back, without having to worry about being overloaded 2v1 on that side. But before I get into that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. They've got the new Manchester United releases for the upcoming season, with OK Jersey also allowing you to pick up high quality football shirts from just £15, plus free shipping across Europe for all orders over £45. They sent me over these new release alternative Manchester United jerseys from this season, as well as a long sleeved retro home shirt from the 92-93 season, with Cantona 7 on the back, alongside this Nuno Gomes Benfica shirt from the 97-98 season as well. If you use code ALANTIS at checkout, you'll get a discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. Now, if Chelsea had a better ball-playing keeper who was just more composed in possession and not completely erratic as Robert Sanchez seems to have become since he made his move to Chelsea, I think Chelsea probably take advantage of this pressing shape from United, as from here I think Mbeumo's got to move over onto Caicedo holding a narrower position, because you can see here that Robert Sanchez could play a kind of reverse pass into Caicedo or a pass splitting Ahmad and Bruno into Enzo, allowing Chelsea to pretty easily bypass United's high pressure. But like Ahmad on the far side, it seems like Mbeumo's been instructed to press the centre-back rather than moving across onto the central midfielder, which doesn't really seem optimal because Sesko's doing a great job of angling his pressure in order to cut off the passing lane back to Trevoh Chalobah, and you can see that because Bruno Fernandes is positioned between 2-3 men, he's kind of sitting between them. And so in order to cut off the opportunity for Sanchez to thread this pass into either Caicedo or Enzo Fernandes, I think that diamond pressing shape has to be a lot more horizontally compact, with Mbeumo coming over to Caicedo, allowing Bruno Fernandes to move further over to his left side onto Enzo. And so I do think United's pressing shape from this situation could be improved, but I think Amorim got the pressing strategy from the start of the game absolutely bang on, going hyper aggressive high up the pitch in order to take advantage of Robert Sanchez's lack of composure and occasional abysmal decision making. And so he goes long from this situation when really and truly he should be looking to play the shorter pass. And as the ball is getting cleared upfield, you can see that Bruno and Casemiro have gone from a double pivot horizontally to a double pivot vertically. And this is okay during certain situations such as this, maybe right at the start of the game, when you're trying to go hyper aggressive from a counter-pressing situation. But the amount of space that both Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes have to cover, essentially being on their own in certain areas in central positions, is always going to be an issue against a three-man midfield if you consistently press like this throughout a match, particularly against sides and players who are highly competent and composed when playing out of aggressive pressure. And I think the pressing shape could be improved by simply making it more vertically compact, simply by pushing the back three up to the halfway line, which would then have allowed De Ligt, the right-sided centre-back, to push onto Cole Palmer, freeing up Casemiro to push further forward to reduce the space between him and Bruno Fernandes, stopping him from being overloaded in this area of the pitch against Caicedo and Enzo. Now obviously having Harry Maguire at the centre of the back three does make you a bit wary of pushing up that high, but for me, when pressing consistently throughout the course of a game and the course of a season, the benefits of having a higher back line, even if Harry Maguire is in it, because it allows the pressing shape to be more vertically compact and stops Bruno Fernandes being overloaded in the centre, significantly outweighs the risk of players running in behind Maguire, particularly if Amorim was to instruct the goalkeeper to hold a high starting position and essentially play like a sweeper keeper, moving out early in order to sweep up any long balls in behind. But United do regain possession and the ball ends up with Harry Maguire in the defensive third, and you can see that Chelsea are man-to-man pressing in a similar pressing shape to what United were. However, because in this phase of play Bruno and Ahmad are sitting higher than Casemiro, United only have a single pivot rather than a double pivot, and so United don't have an overload in the centre like Chelsea did at the other end. But even still, as the ball goes back to Bayindir, I think if Amorim wants to keep his job long term, he needs to start working out how to play out of these type of pressing situations, because you can see how disjointed the Chelsea press is and how much space is in behind their front four. If De Ligt was to maybe move a bit deeper, Casemiro also move towards the ball, this would then drag Esteval and Cole Palmer higher towards the edge of the box, and using those De Zerbi-Farioli short passing patterns of play, United could string together a few short bounce passes, either from Bayindir into Casemiro moving closer towards the ball on the edge of the box, back out to Harry Maguire, playing around João Pedro's press and drawing Cole Palmer high up the pitch, or even with De Ligt moving a bit deeper, Casemiro moving across to United's right side, dragging Cole Palmer away from Harry Maguire, then allowing De Ligt to bounce the ball back out to the other side in order to completely play around Chelsea's disjointed press. But whilst I have been critical of Amorim's patterns of play and the distance between individual players in these deeper areas of the pitch, I do think in the short term he's made the right decision in just telling the goalkeeper Bayindir to go long from these type of situations. And whilst it is certainly a lower probability ball progression strategy and is going to lead to a higher frequency of turnovers and therefore less control throughout the game, this long ball strategy using Sesko's aerial ability and Mbeumo's movement in behind the back line can certainly be effective throughout a game. But at the top level, it can't be your primary ball progression strategy. It needs to almost be a secondary option that you use on occasion, because you can see here as the ball is going into Sesko that United have an overload in the centre, with Ahmad as the free man in this left-sided half space, and just like with Bruno Fernandes against Arsenal, as I pointed out in an analysis video I put out a few weeks ago, I'll leave that linked in the description below and in the eye above, United are missing a massive opportunity here, as even being fairly competent at building out of pressure against a pressing shape which really isn't that vertically compact, then this would allow us to not only retain possession with higher frequency, but also play through the centre of the pitch, exploiting the player who's a free man, which is Ahmad in this situation, which over the course of a game is going to be a lot higher probability of coming off and retaining possession compared with playing these long balls straight into Sesko and looking for him to win the aerial duel. However, as I said, whilst I don't think it should be the primary ball progression strategy from the build-up phase, in the short term and even in the long term during certain situations, I definitely think using these long balls into Sesko, utilising his aerial ability, as well as Mbeumo's movement from that wide position between the centre-back and full-back, can be a very effective way of creating high value chances, and it comes off perfectly here as Sesko wins the aerial duel, flicking it onto Mbeumo, who when compared to Ahmad is definitely better at making this movement inside, in behind the back line, and Mbeumo races through. Sanchez, for some reason when he comes racing out, can't help but clatter into the opposition player, gets a red card, and we see Amorim get his reward for going hyper aggressive from the press straight from the start of the game, as well as just going direct into Sesko, which I definitely think at the start of the game could be an optimal ball progression strategy, because you're catching the opposition off guard, forcing the centre-backs into an aerial duel against Sesko straight from the start of the game, and also testing the full-back's concentration with these diagonal movements ahead of Sesko, as Mbeumo was able to provide perfectly. And so whilst throughout the course of a game and consistently over the course of a season, I don't think it's going to be consistently effective enough for United to use this as their primary ball progression strategy, I am certainly a fan of doing this at the start of a game, maybe even the start of each half, and during certain periods of each game. As if you can also accompany this with the ability to play out of high pressure, is that sort of unpredictability that is going to enable you to catch the opposition off guard, take advantage of a lack of concentration or poor decision making, as we've seen here from Chalobah positionally, and of course from Robert Sanchez, who basically gave United a massive advantage at the start of the game, which really and truly was the key factor in Chelsea losing this game. But as I've said in previous videos, when United players have made mistakes, those mistakes do come from tactical instructions, either from the player's manager or the opposition manager, and in this particular instance it was Amorim's instruction to press aggressively, specifically when Sanchez receives the ball, and also go direct straight from Bayindir into Sesko, looking to utilise Mbeumo's movement in behind, which resulted in this mistake and ultimately in United winning the game. So I am now working on the manager series. I've got videos almost finished on Iraola, Conte, and one about halfway through on De Zerbi. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll also create a playlist for all of those videos. And if you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a 10% discount. I'll leave a link in the description and in the comment section below. And if you do want to sign up to my Patreon to get access to any of the circle charts or the plot graphs, you can get a 7-day free trial, and I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.